Here we go again. I was only planning on taking a break for approximately 5 seconds, and the recorder ran out of batteries. So I continued talking for a few minutes, and I don't remember exactly where, or I don't know when it would have cut off, or what I would have been talking about exactly. At any rate, I've had some time to take care of some other things. It's been about half an hour. I am back out on the balcony. The recording device has new batteries. And I'm ready to see if I can get myself into the flowing state that I had achieved earlier, which would be nice. I was speaking about protocols. I was speaking about the basic protocols. The protocols relating to memory. The protocols relating to media expressions. The protocol about recording right now what I'm doing, giving context for that. The work on Portal Mountain. Strike point protocol as well. So I was in the middle of a strike point. I now have to recall some of the context for what we were doing. To remember, I will have to also remember the initial strike point, the purpose, which I believe was just to bootstrap this context into which it makes sense to make protocols, giving some initial protocols which make the other protocols make sense. Again, having to deal with this strike point protocol as seems to be the nature of the fractal meaning, what the Buddhists call emptiness, the relative meaning of anything from one thing to the other, not to fall into the trap of nihilism. Obviously, it is very meaningful. That meaning is shaped this way. It is not that it is not meaningful. It is higher expressions of order, which we can see at any layer that we look at. So we are in the middle of a strike point protocol to bootstrap protocols, as well as just speak about whatever I want to do to further the work currently. There's been a lot of discussion recently in Alphabetica about the Great Axial War, which is ongoing. A battle line popped up in the Alphabetica chat. Some people get it, some people don't. The meta-arg, the constants that are always going to happen every time you spin up a new hyperstition, a new myth, a new LARP for a specific community. We recording test, yep. Good. Anyways, I'm already 4 minutes in. The first recording was about 7 minutes. Trying to get into this flow state where I rapidly go over giving context for some certain strike point. Again, I am trying to write this out into, this is media expression protocol. I'm trying to figure out ways of external memory which are going to work well, the protocols for utilizing those. So this is how the system is self-referential, because what I'm talking about has to come up out of whole cloth all at once. A gentleman by the name of Nwabudike Morgan knows about this, in relating to how to start an economy from scratch. All the different relations, all the different people have to be there in certain cases. If you're not talking about an evolution, say you're talking about colonizing another planet, or having a ship with this self-containable, self-referential, self-bootstrapping intelligence, which is grounded in its areas of concern. Again, we were talking about the meta-arg, the artifact object, or the quest object and or artifact, bracket S. So these pieces are irrelevant. We saw the battle lines come up. We could spin up a LARP. It could be, so in the situation we have academics, a bunch of academics, so I would think, how does this relate? It's going to be some kind of student protest ARG or something, and where the deeper layers, we control the school. Right, we are the school, we are the kids taking over. You have the general campus, anybody can come and go, but then you have certain classes, then you have certain conference meeting rooms, you have places which are locked off, you have administrative only, you have the principal's office, of the Grand Master, of course. So this is the Alphabetica LARP. So again, we take the meta arg and say guest participant, member, master, Grand Master, give a place or a setting for each of these. In a symbol set that makes sense in the context of the school, which is just something I thought of for Alphabetica, being people who are academics there. This is how they want to maybe perceive their battle, their great war, the great axial war. So we give them the symbol set. This is the hyperstition, this is the meta arg, the meta LARP. This is spinning up the LARP for Alphabetica. And this again functions as yet another piece of context in the greater overall scheme again, which is what I'm talking about, how to spin up, how to give all this whole context. You have to bootstrap a bunch of things. I'm doing that right now. I'm trying to give different contexts. In this case, a series of protocols at the very least at the core of what I'm talking about. Protocols which show you the actual doing of the thing, the self-referential, self-executing nature, the give and take between the concrete and abstract, the mimetic framing of this, the cycling of the mind through time, feeding itself into itself, taking signals from all layers, dealing with all of this all at once, non-linear. So again, I don't know if it was mentioned in my last recording. This is the first one of 7 minutes. Here I am standing on the balcony of my apartment. It's 5 degrees out at roughly 40 Fahrenheit. Pretty cold. I am just kind of pacing back and forth, enjoying myself, enjoying the view. The noise isn't bad. Maybe it might be loud for you, but for me it makes me more comfortable to be able to talk as well. Neighbors would not hear anything. I see a few out. I see people walking by. It's sunny out. Clouds, lots of clouds in the sky. It's a bit of rain coming. Then it's going to be dry for a few days. Just thought I'd throw that in there. These will be transcribed. Again, I am executing a media expression protocol, which states that whatever you want to talk about, execute or utilize in your execution. The strike point protocol which is so now to quickly articulate using a microphone and in a recorder, a strike point with a bunch of context given to a certain thing. Right now I am bootstrapping, so my context is the bootstrap itself, which is to give all this context simply for its own purpose, in that at a certain cognitive environment arises in which people can make sense, can have a framework sort of utilized to be able to start interacting with the guild system. Guilds speak to each other in protocol. This is how, again, the protocols being semantic trees, which all come together to form various trees depending on which program you're executing. They come together in different ways. It's kind of arbitrary. They have outer fringes of parts or process to that protocol which are simply linked away and assumed to be taken care of somewhere else. This is where the trees connect, the semantic trees connect to form bigger meanings, bigger context, more complex set of processes. Yep, still recording. We're at about 11 and a half minutes. So giving context for this whole thing, a few protocols. A media expression protocol, would give it a name, call it dictating, the dictation protocol. Has nothing to do with dictators or lording arbitrary authority over others. I'm simply dictating into a microphone, and then later on I'm going to write it down. But since when I am typing, I often can't think of what to say, or it's a lot more difficult to express a whole bunch of ideas rapidly. Instead of that, I speak it out as if I'm speaking to somebody, as if somebody is hearing this, or as if at least I will hear it later on. And this is again media expression, which is creating a recording, creating symbols, creating rather artifacts in the environment, which external memory pop up to you later on. You see, you recognize symbols, you've encoded a medium, and now it is being decoded in front of you, translated into audio, hitting your speakers and your eardrums. It's a little bit cold, my hand's a bit cold. Almost getting a little shaky out here, but I'm going to keep my hands warm by putting them in my pocket one at a time. Harvest time it is. I'm cleaning out the balcony, getting ready for winter. There are protocols to do with this. Your environment is important. This is part of hygiene of the deck, of the balcony rather. Just making things, putting things up to bringing them up to usefulness, up to spec, depending on the time and what's happening. These are later protocols I could get into, how to deal with the household. But certainly whether these protocols, a note about them is relating to internal memory. We do remember things as processes of how to do things. This is how we articulate something in the abstract. We have this ability to do this. To surf or navigate our whole collective, all past experiences in a new context, real time. The mind does this for us, the neural operating system. Anyways, so we were on strike point protocol, creating a context, the bootstrap. Let's call this bootstrap protocol as well. Just go through a bunch of protocols in a certain area until you have an environment or a collection of protocols which can then be used to share that doing with somebody else. So to augment mentorship or whatever you want to call it, to augment discipleship. So that's bootstrapping, is to come up with a context in which you have enough enough context given for some particular thing to make sense, which can be seen as a whole unit of a thing, useful to somebody to execute this program, this strike point arc. Becomes useful to you as soon as it's packed with enough protocols that it makes sense, and that you get the idea of the protocol of creating protocols, and you get the idea of making protocols. And I was going to get into the Crutch protocol. This is going way back to the first bit of recording I did today, I believe. The Crutch protocol is a perception of the quest artifact. It is the view of it when what the quest object does in real time. If you have the quest object, what that tells you to do. The Crutch protocol says, I'm going to tell someone else what to do for them with this information so that they don't screw it up. So you are giving protocol guidance, Crutch guidance, in line with instructions of whatever is going on. So I can't really parentheses or bracket. I would maybe box bracket things that are being told in this channel. So it's a side channel of communication, the Crutch protocol. It gives sideband information about how to how to stop fucking up by thinking too linearly. The Crutch protocol will always try to hop in whenever there's a danger of the APS overriding the context of the situation. So that's one thing. Wherever reasonable, you should always be looking for biases, and if they are actually impacting your performance of a behavior, to watch for patterns that you're doing. For example, swimming is a great example. Notice or don't notice, because you don't notice how mechanical your swimming is until you become aware of this type of fluidity and flow, which literally translates into the body and its actions and activities in the water. You may go from like trying to program a robot to swim to becoming an octopus type fluid. This is the difference of what happens. So you can swim one way mechanically for all your life, but then one day actually pay attention to how you're swimming, and then things become optimized, and there's all different parts of interest to do with swimming. While you're swimming, you notice them. You see the efficiency of doing it this way, doing it that way, moving your arm this way, breathing that this time. So breathing, arm movement, water, swimming. So I'm doing a strike point, essentially a mini strike point for the swimming environment or swimming behavior, and giving a Crutch protocol example. Anyways, so swimming, swimming gets mechanical. The Crutch protocol would tell you something like, pay attention to your swimming, pay attention to how you're doing it, don't just do it as fast as you can. But it would tell you this while you're doing it. So because some instructions were specifically given to you to do this when you do this. So that's why it's the Crutch protocol. Until you have acquired the quest object, those types of instructions will have to be made in line with normal regular instruction as well. So it's like the mimetic. So you're not fucking up the mimetic. You don't know why. You're just following these instructions. They say, okay, now I'm swimming. Pay attention to my swimming. because someone told me to pay attention. When you have the quest object, this type of a voice doesn't need to come from outside to tell you obvious things like pay attention to what you're doing and try to improve it. Like, just notice the conflict between what your structures are telling you and the actual performance of it in the concrete sense. So Crutch Protocol is telling you to do that, to do something which will help you to perform an activity while not fucking it up, in the sense of membership, how a member would be convicted of something if they see it, if they see the problem. Yeah, it's that awareness is given. So by the quest object. The awareness comes from inside by the quest object. The Crutch artifact, or the Crutch object, is a dim view of that quest object, in which something is physically giving you instructions and telling you things that you should be telling yourself. There we go. So that is the Crutch Protocol, is to do that, to put instructions in line and tell people and give an expression saying, okay, this is Crutch bracket. Okay, don't fuck this up while you are swimming. Feel your efficiencies, feel the gliding, the movement. Take time to feel your swimming and what you're doing and what your purpose is, and how you're achieving it in the pool. And Crutch bracket. Right? So okay, so there we go. Still recording good. We're at 22 minutes. I have about another 20 minutes maybe before I should go vacuum the house to make things nice. So hygiene of the house. I should write all kinds of protocols for the household to give even more context. Note to do that. Note to self to do that. For now, I am strike pointing the bootstrap itself by just giving a whole bunch of context and talking about a whole bunch of things in which an arc can form that people can benefit and take away something from it. In particular, take away the context of protocols themselves and to go ahead and do this stuff on your own. That's what we're bootstrapping. We're bootstrapping everything. It all has to come at once. I can't say everything all at once. This is why the strike point protocol. I'm getting a little bit cold, so I hope that I can keep going. I'm pacing here. Just my hands are cold, I guess. Getting a little bit shaky, finding it's a little bit harder to focus or concentrate. However, I do appear able to make this fluid statement of symbols, which will be for later review. So we have so many protocols together already, and we are asking the question, what can I do with this? So have we filled in enough? So this is the problem of the fractal. It depends on you, the viewer, or you, the listener. What meaning assemblages do you have already to interface with what I have said so far? So of course, I can always keep going outwards and outwards along the fractal into every little detail of everything. Like I said, I could go into what is up with household protocols. I could go into the specific exact cleaning of a toilet protocol. I could ask my wife. That's maybe a protocol too, because she knows better than I do. But this is how we could share information as a guild, as a proximity guild together. write protocols together. So anyways, that's an example of dwelling into the fractal. I'm coming back out. We are just bootstrapping right now the strike point protocol along the bootstrap. So bootstrap is what we want to do to raise up enough context that makes so that people can read this and have it make some sense to them. So where to go from here? Do we have enough? Do we have enough? Where can we go with this? What can we do with this? So I have some media expression protocols, the dictation protocol. It's what I'm doing is dictating right now. You could do this as well if you feel that you like to write or would like to try a different way of expressing and writing. So this I could already start sharing with some people. In particular, I was trying to get the core protocols, core system of something working together where basically you have the guild functioning. So what does this take? It takes so the quest object protocol or whatever is to make someone aware of the quest object whenever they come in contact with your ARG, if you want to call it that, or with your reality, whatever way or context you're trying to put this together. So there's this thing you must search for, you must embark on the journey. What we are doing is good, it's good for you, it's good for us. You have confidence in that fact, you are committing, you are developing accountability skill, you are now a participant. So we're getting into the degrees of coherence, which is another thing to be aware of. I guess that's maybe the third dimension in this thing that we're building a mobile portal generator, and so far we have 3 components. So we have the quest object protocol, we have the coherence protocol, which is how you relate or understand relations. Anybody who has a particular degree of coherence within a certain behavior, or maybe the meta behavior, a particular degree of coherence, they can always see themselves, they can recognize their own. It's a self-understood title, and they can often recognize themselves in others out in the environment. So when other people are acting, you can generally kind of recognize, it's actually basically on who disqualifies themselves. It's not so much that you see, wow, that person's a member or this or that. It's that, wow, that person never seems to mess this particular constraint up. So they continue to not disqualify themselves. So a number of people, or like participants, participants, guests, are disqualifying themselves consistently all over the place, and it causes perception to happen, a perception of that. In the case of guest, it's like you feel that indifference maybe, and in the case of participant, often it seems to be annoyance. You get annoyed when you're seeing people disqualify themselves to this or that degree or level. Like, okay, yeah, you're trying to participate, but you're breaching constraints which members know about, which members are always convicted of, which is plain to see for members, and they don't mess this one up. And if they do, it's usually some old habit or remnant of memory, whatever. So I got about 10 more minutes. We're talking about now the Portal Mountain generator. We are bootstrapping. We are doing a big strike point. About 1 hour probably is going to go total into this today. To strike point through the whole bootstrap, the whole thing, which comes up all at once. What are we doing together? So by all at once, I at least mean that these interactions can happen between people, not just self things, but going into the social already. So these are the components which have to all come together. This is why we have a portal generator, a mobile portal generator specifically, rather, which is important because we in our daily movements we encounter other people, we have interactions with people, we start relationships, we have relationships, and so how do we start talking about coherence, talking about the things that spiritual seekers want to talk about but don't know how to, because they don't have the language, they don't have the systems. They intuitively know what, like you can see members, I'm referring to specifically members, have the ability to see, to look upon a project or a hyperstition like Portal Mountain and see what's going on. So when you bust out your portable mobile portal generator, members will always recognize what you're doing. They'll be like, holy shit, if they've never seen this one particular mechanism or contraption before. So you will right off the bat have actually I haven't thought of what order, but so you'll have a number of protocols up and running. Just the basic like, hello, this is my reality, this is what I'm doing, and do you see the meta arg in what I'm telling you? So that may be, that's how you can gauge membership of others. Usually they'll start jiving right away as soon as you tell them, like about this this journey through life, that it's not such a linear thing, that it's not all just about retirement and buying stuff and consumerism. Anyways, people get poked out of the matrix, so to speak, by traumatic experiences, by having certain acute situations happen to them, relating to usually death or pain, suffering, really bad acute situations, or sometimes long and drawn out situations which people have just had enough of. Then they may come to understand this, the meta arg, when it's presented to them. Again, we have to craft these to look like something appeasable or pleasable to a certain subset of culture, or the Portal Mountain generic as it is probably going to be rejected in most cultures, most contexts, which we have to recognize. That's because of the symbol set. We're doing it for ourselves, just to express this. It doesn't matter what it looks like. We are simply claiming to represent the meta arg, the meta narrative, the meta whatever. We are representing it. We are not it. We cannot claim to be, because this is just an expression in context. The context is things that make sense to us, in which we're trying to speak as plainly as possible to make to develop a coherent system that correctly expresses what we feel and know from our experience and in relating to our internal processes, our internal memorizations, we're seeing an externalization of this type of work in the form of documents, chat rooms. Anyways, so the mobile portal generator so you walk up to a member, you don't know them, never seen them, and you strike up a conversation, you start a relationship, you prove that you're normal, you're going up some basic layers, so there's no longer a fear of being so far other. You try to relate empathically, put yourself in their shoes and make a comment or talk about something shared or whatever, the weather, typical. Anyway, so you start the basics of a relationship. That's where awareness begins and all this stuff, that they may kind of see how different you may be behaving than others because of this sort of unbounded freedom and responsibility. So there's not just nihilist relativistic freedom, but the narrow path of life. Can get into that later. So the generator has this understanding of coherence right off the bat. I guess maybe that's one of the first things. Like, did you know that some people are born of the spirit and some are not? Did you know that? So this is potentially one of the first protocols. So coherence protocol. Coherence, going up in coherence, guest participant, member, master, grandmaster. Protocols for the generator, the mobile portable, the portable generator, portable. So we have the quest object protocol as well, which is that there's a journey across coherence. So that's the main. I don't know, maybe you can juxtapose or foreground, background, mimetic. Foreground is the journey of the quest to find the object, the quest object, over the backdrop of coherence. So as a background, understanding your relation. Where am I at with this behavior? Do I understand it? Am I participating? So this itself will increase your coherence, being aware of this. So factors for the portal generator. There's at least one more protocol, but anyways, I'll come to it. I have the first two kind of foundational. Yeah, so we were talking about proximity guilds at one point, and these are relationships either with yourself, that's the loopback proximity, or relationships with others. Strike up a conversation with a stranger, there you have some form of contact. So you've made contact. You shake hands maybe. Yeah, so proximity guilds have a purpose or a reason as well. It's the context of why you were there, why you were relating. There's so many different ways to relate to people. If you meet with somebody in one context or another context, these would be considered different proximity guilds. And again, this is not a linear capture of what is and is not the proximity guild. Everything seems to fold and unfold into itself and through itself. So getting a perfect representation of this is not the goal, but approximations to, especially with software, help with this understanding of relations between things, the different contexts, the different strike points. So we're always just building context. We're never finalizing anything. Where are we at? 40 minutes. So I'm going to clean the house pretty soon. Vacuum the floors. What do we have? We have the mobile portal generator, the MPG. It has the first two major protocols, the coherence protocol, as well as the Quest object protocol. So this is what you share with somebody to start assessing or understanding, and you share it in a way you're supposed to change the symbol set something that makes sense locally in the context. So if they speak one language of spirituality or religion or whatever, you can use that context. It's not a betrayal of who you are. What you're representing is the meta-arg, which doesn't have a perfect expression. It is the thing itself. It's a funny, you know what I mean. Anyways, I'm not trying to do the thing in and of itself thing. But just to point towards the meta-arg, or the meta-narrative, or the meta-religion, which can only ever be pointed to. This is the meta-org, meta-organization, etc., etc. I'm sure there's a protocol for that. The meta, something, not the meta protocol, but the talking about the meta, expressing the meta-org, the meta-narrative, all this stuff. The protocol for that is basically understand that whatever you write is not the truth itself, but is a representation within a particular symbol set of that truth. And this is kind of how you get to the meta thing, and then it's like, well, we shouldn't be fighting over the symbol set if they are reflecting the same things, but because we are not members, we are not seeing that. It requires membership, and this is why most people in the world today and what they're doing can only be considered as participants, don't have a deep insight into why, the whys of why they're doing certain things certain ways. Yeah, the meta-org protocol, whatever. Doesn't matter. I don't have to name it right now, but just giving a sort of inline view of the process of creating protocols, of how they come up. So we have the MPG, the mobile portal generator, with its we have two protocols so far, the coherence protocol and the Quest object protocol, and we have many more in the context of what I've already described and talked about, which I don't want to go try and remember and list off right now. I'm just trying to think in context, what do we actually have this strike point? We're bootstrapping something. We're bootstrapping even the using of protocols to augment the social operating system, to properly externalize in ways that are isomorphic, externalize in ways that are reflective of the patterns of the mind, which would be doing things in a certain way anyways. And it comes up to this holonic type holarchy, holoheterarchy, and the way that it works like this, it's never linear, or the way that the ways in which people think so rationally and logically without the counterbalance of the understanding of analogy, and that everything is analogous, and that logic itself is coming out of analogy, logic analogic. It's coming out of your experience. It's formed through as you go along. And so I guess general systems theory has an understanding of this. This is getting into cybernetics, I suppose. And what we're talking about is encoding the environment and then having it encode you. So this is the main failure of civilization today, is to allow encodings of our environment in symbolic form to override and overrun our own existence and our own participation with those systems. So in other words, expressions were made maybe by a master, but then thereafter they were interpreted by a participant. So this is always the danger of expression, that whatever you write, whenever you're giving instructions, there is no the universal context. So we're trying to make universal instructions, but there's no such thing as a universal context that's the same and applying everywhere. So we're trying to speak something that's idealistic and that's nowhere, something, and the vision of which of being solid is coming from that leap out of the chaotic context to something emerging, which is feeling like it's real. This is the axial age. The Greek philosophers or whoever, wondering to themselves, what is justice in and of itself? Then you realize, you have to define a whole bunch of other things around that. This is strike point protocol, right? And so it's been understood that this is how meaning is created, but the world didn't used to operate like this to create a system. So when we defined justice and went on to define all the other things, like justice was the strike point, and it's never ended. It keeps going. And now when we have this whole context, we are born into this. We are born into the dictionary. The dictionary tells us all the meaning of all the things. There's such a wide context that we can be like, yeah, this means that means that means that means that, and you go through everything and anything and how you relate it and how you think. Meanwhile, you don't understand that this is your whole mode of thinking is within these symbols, which have meaning on their own, we think. But if we understand emptiness, that is how everything has meaning only in context and with each other, with other things, then we see that this is actually a limited mode of thought that we are born into and we accept, but it's actually very I don't know if the word is like mythical or magical. I think, yeah, magical thinking, that everything that we believe this entire whole thing, the whole context as true, as absolutely true, whatever we were born into, though. And it's when you try to explain it, all it is logic. All it is explanations. It's not lived or embodied. The whole set of our thinking on what is real, when we do a strike point on reality, doesn't involve the body and what it does in our minds, in our neural operating system, to take experiences as we experience them, such as somebody talking or writing, to take those and have it alter the meaning of things in real time. This is what we're doing. We're creating a synthesis of the past and the current and the present into the future. We're using the past, things of the past, ideas, myths, myth of retirement, of this, of that, of getting rich, of relaxing, of whatever idea of some future we have in our head, even short term. Anyways, I know I was on a pretty good roll there. I do have to clean my house. So just so thinking to wrap it up. We have the MPG, the mobile portal generator. We've been giving all kinds of context on different protocols to take care of different parts of operating within this system. The whole operating system has to come up all together, sort of speaking, so we bootstrap it. So I'm bootstrapping the operating system right now. Pacing outside, I'm freezing. I'm getting tired. But I'm loving this media expression dictate, the protocol called Dictate. So far so good. I've covered a lot of ground, and I think this will be useful. So we were talking about proximity guilds. We were getting into the guild, how so behaviors. So we can have the same relationships with people, but in different contexts, relating in different ways, and we may call these different proximity guilds. And then I broke out into the whole fractal thing, like you don't really put a delineation around who is or what is exactly this or that proximity guild. Like, things are so fluid and dynamic, we can't be thinking in those rigid structured terms of the mind. We have to keep that flow going all the time, or be able to spin up this flow whenever we need it, and make sure that we come back to it, because it's going to work throughout the whole system like that. As soon as you go crusty, you stop doing it. You get stuck in some cycle of ignorance or whatever, and just don't. Anyways, it's easy to fall off track. Okay, so this is a lot of typing. This is probably, so we're at about an hour of recording today. I'm talking fairly fast the whole time, so I'm guessing that oh boy, I don't know, 20 pages. That's pretty good. So anyways, so I can use that material. So we have all these protocols set up. We are bootstrapping an operating system to allow people to take it and go and use it where they like. We are going to be integrating this with the DEC protocol. So in other words, a database, so an externalized database. That's what the DEC tries to do. An isomorphic externalized database of the processes and operations of the mind, the neural operating system. So we're just trying to create an external memory systems which will interface with our running programs, which will bootstrap and kickstart up different processes, and all kinds of things that help to make your life way more efficient and way better, make you way more effective, especially by sharing these protocols in the context of the guild. And this is the purpose of the natural guilds. So every proximity guild is composed of a set of natural guilds, and within those, so these are the abstractions, the abstract of what you're doing, the processes of what you're doing in this context. These are the natural guilds. So this is the abstract counterpoint to the concrete, which is the relationship itself, and you being in a community, doing something out physically doing it. So this is your story, in other words, the change of things happening before you. You're seeing or hearing the airwaves being changed into audio by a vocal cord or a speaker. Anyways, you're seeing these change. This is your narrative, this is your story, your relationships with people. You come online with people, you connect with people, you peer with them. This is the guild system. So whatever behavior you're doing, depending on the coherence of the proximity guild, it may or may not have ability to even talk too much abstract or to capture protocols. So you could think of proximity guilds as having a certain coherence, which is kind of like lowest common denominator problems, or you'll see that. So you'll get a mix. So people coming together in proximity guilds as a context for the natural guilds to function in. So having certain set of natural guilds and protocols. So we're talking about the basic protocols that that need to be in place before you really have interactions, which could be considered like guild-like isomorphic. It's really being aware of the coherence, so coherence protocol, as well as that we're on this journey to utilize, to obtain and utilize, to obtain and master the quest object. So that's understanding that. So between people, you're at different places in that journey, but you can lean on each other. You can provide crutches. Crutch protocol. So inline, tell somebody how to be more coherent a certain way. Dealing with the protocols, the core protocols of behavior of a certain area. Certain area of behavior. Okay, so then you just start doing this. You take your mobile portal generator, and you take it to somewhere, relationship, someone you know, a group of people or whatever. You pull out the mechanism device and begin opening the portal, starting with certain protocols, such as, I don't know, I guess I already described a welcome protocol. So welcome protocol is where you establish that everything's cool. Hi, how are you? Fine. Hi, fine, how are you? Whatever. Basically to help people put each other at ease, that there are no pressing matters or no emergencies, and that we are decent and in good mood and decent human beings to each other. So then, anyways, small talk protocol, whatever, get a, so somehow lead it towards spirituality, or just make an observation of people and how incoherent they are, blah, 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 whatever. Small talk protocol, so welcomes protocol, small talk protocol. And even then, right away, depending on if you've met a member just at this point, you can probably hit straight into coherence protocol, and they will understand, like, wow, yeah, I get it. Some people are born of the spirit and some people are not. So they understand the difference between participation and membership. And then be like, so yeah, how about that quest object? Do you want to practice mastery with me? Do you want to talk about it? So quest object protocol, that would be another one of the things. So, and it would be self-guided as to which protocols you're going to bring online at any one time. So so this is the point is this is something that you just do in your life with your relationships. The mobile portal generator is utilized, and this brings your relationship into isomorphism with the meta narrative, the meta religion, the meta organization, the meta whatever you want to call it. These are all representations, such as is Portal Mountain is a representation. So anyways, I have to get some cleaning done. I think I have enough material right now, which is great for this bootstrapping strike point. I need to integrate deck protocol more in this. This is basically like AO or dashboard protocol as well to deal with. And I could start expanding the protocols in my own scope. I have always, or have for a long time, dreamt of this, of being able to do this, just to have the strike point ready, strike point protocol ready, and a bunch of other protocols that there's enough context finally given for things to make sense, and enough. So I've been working on mastery in these areas, in all these areas that you've just heard me speak about, so that I can get it straight in my mind. How does this actually work? Like, I know that it works and I see it and I experience it, but how do I explain that? How do I express it? How do I sort the the intellectual. So you gain the deepest insights, and that's what allows you to re-express something. So this is what mastery is. Anyway, so that's how I'm now able to express all of this and try to accelerate my work. And I'm going to try and keep talking today. It's tough to get started, but once I start, I just kind of am able to go with the flow, and it's very good. So I'm going to stop this recording right now, and hopefully I will be back on once I've cleaned up the floors a little bit. It's been 1 hour and 8 minutes of total talk time today, and I hope you enjoy yours.